I'm live. I didn't even see that. Hello, everyone. Hello, no one. I'm in here all alone. If you are rewatching this, we're going to go over some important stuff today. We actually did it a couple times in the past, but I think it was just so beneficial for some others. So what we're actually going to do is I have a couple practice domains, and I'm actually going to go ahead and go through what like a perfect placeholder setup looks like, because there's so many different perspectives of what Ezoic is and is not. And when it comes down to it, the thing that makes Ezoic so beneficial for you and the reader is actually having an absolutely perfect setup in terms of placeholders and ads. So that's something that I wanted to go over today. It's something that we cover, a good amount and have in the past, but it's something that is the most important thing that we should be doing. So I'm going to be sharing a practice domain and a couple others as well. And I'm just going to go through and say, hey, look, this is exactly what this placeholder setup is missing. This is what this one needs. I'm going to go over some of the most important features that you guys should enable. But we really want to stress on the importance of having an absolutely dialed in ad setup, because, you can go through and enable WordPress placeholders, and you can go and enable AI placeholders, and that will cover a good majority of your pages. But there's still some really important areas and aspects of your site that we want to make sure are covered, because you will see an insane jump in revenue, and you will also ensure that your users are having a good experience. So that's something that we definitely want to cover. Anita, great to see you. Queffy's back. Great to see you again. I love seeing you guys come back. Mr. Hobbies says hello. Hello to you, Mr. Hobbies. I'm going to reintroduce myself again in probably 2, 3, 4 minutes, because I usually like to let people kind of gather their bearings and get set up and pull up their dashboard if they want to follow along. But my name is Charlie. My label here at Ezoic is technically technical publisher advocate. So essentially, I'm going to be doing anything in my power to help you guys out and to help you succeed. So that's kind of the direction of where these live streams are going to be going. So you're saying, hey, Charlie, I do want to go over some placeholder setups, but I also want to go over Leap. Can you explain how Leap is different than Google PageSpeed or GTmetrix or PageSpeed tests? We can go over Niche IQ and how it works and how it could benefit you, especially being an Access Now program. We can set up Flickify. So the main idea here for this live stream, of course, is going to be placeholder and ad setups, because it is something so important, so critical to your success at Ezoic. But we do want to touch on some of the other amazing technologies that Ezoic has to offer. I'm just noticing that I sat up. I mean, this is off topic, but I sat on my glasses and now they're all crooked and bejambled. But I am excited that I have some of you guys in here today. I had one of these live streams set up for yesterday at 9:30 in the morning, and on the way to work, I do drive. So one of my clutch pedal in my car is a little plastic piece broke, and I couldn't get the car into gear, so I was stranded on the side of the road. So last minute on the side of the road, I had to cancel my live stream. That way you guys weren't just sitting around waiting for it, because I felt terrible. So the first thing I wanted to do today is to make it up for you guys and hold one of these live streams for you today. Yeah, I'm totally fine with the car. It was just a little plastic piece, but it was just a pain, because it kind of just left me stranded on the side of the road, and I was only a mile away from the office. But sometimes that just happens. That's just how life goes. But yeah, Amazing Story Hub says, hey, good to see you again. Happy New Month. Happy New Month to you guys as well. Whether you guys celebrate Christmas or not, happy holidays. It's insane that we're already to the end of the year of 2022. I can't believe next year is going to be 2023. I feel like 2008 was 3 years ago. So yeah, it's definitely insane. But now that we're 5 minutes in, I want to reintroduce myself and kind of cover some ground here. So again, to take a step back, as you guys can see in the bottom corner, my name is Charlie. I'm a technical publisher advocate here at Ezoic, but I work primarily with I do work with the scaled onboarding team. So I work with all you guys in Access Now, level 1. I personally love working in this team the most because you guys as publishers are the most hungry and kind of ready to work. You guys are also willing to, try new features. And you guys also have just generally the best mindset when it comes to publishing because you guys are like, you have nothing to lose, everything's on the table. So I personally love working with you guys the most because again, you guys are really open to feedback. You guys are open to trying new features. You guys work really hard. You have nothing to lose. Yeah. But yeah, again, let's just jump into it. So if you guys haven't been into one of these live streams before, essentially what you can do is what you see others doing is you can comment in the comment section on the sidebar here, and I'll just go through top to bottom, read the comments, offer my insight, answer questions, or I can just, bring up a topic and kind of let you guys discuss in the comment section if you want, because you guys do have a lot of really, really good insight to share. So I wanted to give you guys that platform to actually share it. Excuse me. But Anita, let's jump into your question first because it's the top of the list. What do you recommend? Manual ad setup or Ezoic auto ads? Sorry, I was just turning off my phone. I don't want to disrupt. But then you also asked down here again, what do you recommend, manual ad setup or Ezoic ad setup for informational websites? I don't want any bad user experience. So before I do answer this, I want to go into why this is such a good question. Because when you do have a really good placeholder setup, that allows our AI to test the best variations for each individual user. And what that basically means for layman terms is that each user coming to your page is going to have a better user experience, which means they're going to engage with your pages longer, which means you're going to be earning more revenue. So to answer your question though, I actually would say both of these. Both of these are the best way to do it. So when you say manual ad setup, what I'm interpreting that is you're actually adding more placeholders using the Chrome extension, excuse me. But the auto ads are basically our AI ads is what I'm assuming you're talking about. And I would also turn that on. So what the AI placeholders actually does is, let's say you have a pretty long article and you added 6 to 7 mid-content placeholders, you're pretty stagnant through. But let's say, on the top half of the page, there's maybe 3 or 4 empty long paragraphs that don't have any placeholders attached to it. The logic of our AI is basically saying, hey, this is an area where we can add in placeholder, but one isn't added, so we're automatically going to add one because it's going to say, hey, this is the layout, this is how the elements are basically drawn out, we're going to add an AI placeholder there. And what I want to do really quick is to actually just show you where you can turn that on if you have not yet. So it's going to be in the dashboard. I'll share my screen in a second. I just wanted to pull this up for you all. But this is a really good question, Anita. And we actually do our own setup reviews for you guys now because we understand the importance of having such a perfect setup. So if you guys are saying, hey, I honestly just setting up placeholders is a lot, I don't really understand exactly how it works, what you can actually do is reach out to us in the community, or just reach out to us here and say, hey, Charlie, I would love to have my placeholder set up, opted in for a setup review. And basically we have a list of sites that are waiting to get their placeholder setups dialed in, and we just as a team will go through in our off time and kind of set this up for you. But before I ramble on for hours, which I'm really good at if you haven't realized yet, is I'm going to share my screen and show you exactly where you can turn on AI placeholders, because if you don't, this is something that I would highly suggest. So I'm going to share my screen. You guys are going to see an infinite loop in 1 second. Okay, cool. So now I'm here in the dashboard. You guys might have actually noticed that the privacy and content section has been removed from the dashboard here. They are now mostly found in the settings, and some of the other settings are actually found in Ezoic Ads. But again, stay on topic here. We're going to go into the Ezoic Ads section of the dashboard to find your AI ads. Once we are here, we can find ad types, so we can see all the different type of ads we can serve. So we have native ads. This is just turning on and off ad tester. This little toggle right here. Vignette ads. So vignette ads are basically if you're going from one page to the next. In between the loading, you'll basically have a ad show up mid-screen. As some people call these interstitial ads. I'm sure you guys are very familiar with these. This is where you're going to find AI placeholders. So again, this is a really, really great feature to have and to turn on if you do not. So again, we're going to go to Ezoic Ads, Ad Positions, Ad Types, Auto Insert Ads, and then AI placeholders here. Again, this will find places on your pages where placeholders currently do not exist, but they can. So that will just handle all of this for you. But yeah, that's a really, really good question, Anita. Great way to start this off. John, that's a really good question. I'm going to just go down the line and kind of touch up on some of these other things. Kweffi's in Qatar. Hopefully, it's it's pretty fun with the World Cup going on. Just as a general question, because I have a handful of new names in here today. I'm just curious where you guys are checking in from. I usually get a couple people from the UK. I know I have a couple of my favorites from Ireland. Kweffi's over in Qatar. But I'm just curious where you guys are checking in from. But to let you guys know that I am actually in San Diego, California right now. I'm currently in our Carlsbad office, which is kind of like our main headquarters. Again, back to the questions. Don't want to go on too much of a rant. But if you guys are curious, I'm more than happy to cover that as well. But again, I wanted to highlight this question because having a perfect setup is really important to user experience. More placeholders does not mean more ads will show. It just means our AI has more variations to test, which means your user experience will be better for each user. Pandy, hopefully I didn't butcher your last name, but Ezoic Helix versus YouTube video integration over our website. I'm a bit confused on what the question is, but I'm actually going to give you my interpretation of what this question is and how I'm going to answer it. So I'm assuming you're talking about Humix, which is basically our video sharing network that is, independent to Ezoic. And you're basically asking maybe the differences between YouTube and having Humix. The main difference is that Humix is just giving you another platform for you to open up and share your videos. So it's not saying you can't use YouTube as well. I mean, I would say go add all your videos to YouTube because they're going to be super beneficial. You might have a ton of traffic there, but there's no reason you can also not share your videos on Humix and have other publishers share your videos, and so you can earn. So if you guys are unaware what Humix is, it's basically a video sharing platform. And what I can do is, let's say if I had 300 videos that I've created, I know I can have them on my site, which is awesome, which is great. It'll help improve user experience, engagement time, help with SEO practices, revenue goes up. But I can also share my videos to Humix, so you guys can also share my videos on your pages, which means we'll actually be splitting the revenue. So whether you've already made videos or you haven't in the past, you could be getting a chunk of those earnings from videos, whether you've made videos or not. So that's kind of why having both Humix and YouTube is actually a really beneficial thing, because it's like, why not just dip into both of those pots and get to some of those earnings? We've actually had some of our smaller publishers that have psychology sites and both math equation sites that really primarily focused on video creation. And when they did this and enabled them and activated them in Humix, they were being shared across hundreds of different sites and actually seeing hundreds of dollars of revenue, even being a tiny little site. But then some of the differences and the variations between the two, I would say, from Humix, if you want to use it, you can earn money on the first day. If you started a YouTube channel today, you need 10,000 subscribers, you need 10,000 hours watched before you can even start getting monetized. And then from there, YouTube's just going to crawl back more revenue split and more revenue split. They've been continuously doing this. Twitter's been doing it. YouTube's been doing it. A lot of other places have been doing it. But essentially, they can take as much revenue as, basically take away as much of that revenue share as they want. So I would say, integrate both Humix and YouTube if you have videos. So just don't sell yourself short. There's no harm in having both going. But yeah, as you guys can tell, I like to go on a little bit of rants. So I'm gonna say, hopefully I covered your question there, and we can move on. But again, if you're saying, hey, Charlie, you didn't really answer my question perfect, can you circle back and maybe actually cover this aspect of the question? I'll be more than happy to do that. Happy Kid says, haven't received my payments yet. So the payments can be a little bit confusing. So I'm going to break it down just from my own example in my head. So let's say I joined Ezoic in October, right? I joined in the Access Now program, so I have a little bit of a smaller site. But let's say by the end of October, I earned $25. So the reason I said $25 is because you actually have to pass $20 of earning in order to be paid out. That's our payout threshold. So let's say I earned $25 in the month of October. The net payout is then going to be 30 days. So once I hit $20 of revenue at the end of the month, I'll basically wait the month of November to finalize the earnings and the payment. And then at the end of November, you'll get your earnings for October. So that means by the 4th of this month, you'll get the earnings from October. So I know that's a little bit confusing for you, Happy Kid, because I don't know exactly what your domain is. I don't know when you started earning. I don't know how much you earned last month, but let's say you passed their payment threshold in October of $20. You'll get those payments by the end of December 4th, because we're still finalizing data. Google pays us out, and then we pay you out that full amount, and that's kind of how it works. Hopefully that answered your question. If not, please let me know, and I'll be happy to elaborate, because there's a couple different aspects of that question that I didn't cover. John Dabbs says, first off, really cool name. Whether it's your real name or not, John Dabbs is cool. Cool first live session. Excited to join. How many in-content placeholders should I have every paragraph? So this is a really good question, John. And it does kind of depend on your article. So let's say you have an H1 at the top of your page that's kind of covering your main topic of your article. Let's say you have 2 paragraphs there. Since it's the top of the page, I would probably highly suggest adding one under the first paragraph and after the second paragraph. But from there, maybe every other paragraph, I would say. Because again, adding more placeholders does not mean more ads will show. It's just saying, hey, let's give our AI more variations to test for your users. So maybe if your users are engaging with your page a lot better, only showing after the second paragraph, then that's what our AI will continue to do. So we'll use past data that says, hey, this was working really well for this subset of a user. This new user coming in is actually hitting the same criteria of the other subset. So let's send them out the similar ad setup. So I would say maybe every other paragraph, but especially on the top end of the page where your users are engaging a lot, I would say maybe under the first paragraph, after the next one, and then maybe go every other paragraph from there. But John, I will pull up another domain and kind of give you a good idea of what a good placeholder setup looks like. Okay, let me continue on here. Okay, awesome. If any of you guys want me to actually pull up your domain and I can share your screen and say, hey, this is what you're doing really well, this is what can improve, and this is kind of what you're missing out on, simply just drop your domain name in the comment section and exclude the .com, because the way YouTube works, it'll actually exclude your comment, or it'll delete your comment if you say like, google.com, because it'll say, oh, that's a website, let's remove that from the comment section. We don't allow that. So I'll be more than happy to do that as well. Awesome. Custom kit gym equipment's from the UK. We have our team in UK. In the UK, we have an office in London. We have an awesome office in Newcastle. Oh, nice. Niche site life is from East Texas, a little outside of Dallas. That's awesome. I'm actually from Washington, D.C., so I like my Washington Commanders, so I'm a little bit biased against Dallas teams, but I'm still here to help you out. We're on the same team here. Daniel Kraft, welcome back. He's from London. That's awesome. I've never been, but I will be going soon. John's from the Cayman Islands, or is in the Cayman Islands. That's hopefully it's sunshine and beautiful and you have warm water. I think we're all a little bit jealous of you, John. Pandy's from India, awesome, on a train. I'm happy I can join you. Hopefully you have some earphones in so I'm not annoying everyone else in the train. And Mr. Cast Iron, of course, Mike. Pretty sure from Ireland or the UK. But great to see you again. I'm so happy to have you back. Anita, another good question. Do you guys thinking about cPanel of Ezoic WordPress hosting? So we actually don't have a cPanel, but you can access all your site files via SFTP. So what you can do is you can basically get FileZilla, and I do have a really good article on this if you need it. It's basically how to access all your site files. So, if anything happens, you can still access all your files. You can delete plugins. You can update things. You can move things around. But you'll always remain in full control of your domain, even if you're, whether you're name server integrated, you can still control all of your DNS settings and all your DNS records. We never override and take control and say, you don't have control over it. You still have access to your registrar. Everything is still fully in your control. But we don't have a cPanel, but we do have, you can access your files via SFTP. Let me just pull that up for you in case you do need it. But for those of you who do not know, we do offer free WordPress hosting, which is a pretty incredible feature. And if you guys are using Ezoic features or you're monetized with Ezoic, you can use our hosting for free, which is incredible. There's no size limits, there's no data limits. The world's your oyster here. So I just dropped that comment, or excuse me, that article at the bottom is how to actually pull up your site files via SFTP when you're on our hosting. John Dab says, I also added in ads just recently. So basically Core Web Vitals went from green based on content shift, it said. I use WordPress Rocket. It was recommended that I use Leap. How can I fix CLS shift on Leap? So John, that's another really good question. And I can answer this either by giving, my third-party interpretation of basically how to use Leap, or if you want me to go into your specific setup and share my screen, I can show you basically how I analyze and use Leap. Leap does have a couple of variations of complexity, but basically how I'm going to describe it is that Leap will basically flag anything on your page or your entire domain that's hindering site speed from an unbiased perspective. So it's not going to say, hey, we like this technology, let's use it. It's going to say, no, this technology is taking X amount of time to load, so it's hindering your site speed by X amount, right? So it's not going to take some objective or some subjective view of it and say this. It's going to say, no, based on this data, it requires this much time and this much data to load, so it's going to slow down your speed by X amount. And then it's also going to say X percentage of other sites that are also using this are also seeing the same hindrance to site speed. But basically for you, John, when you're in Leap in the dashboard, you can actually go to CLS and then actually analyze all your pages from there. And it'll basically say, hey, these are the features you have turned on. These are the features you need to turn on in order to help. And these are all the things on the pages getting flagged that are hindering site speed. So the reason I want to bring this up is because a lot of the times, some publishers can have 30 plugins dialed in, and then when they enable the ads, they're saying, what the heck, it's slowing down site speed. While it is loading more stuff on your screen, we have thousands of publishers that have 100 green Core Web Vital scores that are also serving ads. So you need to take a look at the entire picture of what's being loaded on the screen, which is why Leap is so beneficial, because it gives you that granular view of site speed. I know that was a bit vague, and it was, because you asked a pretty good specific question. But again, if you want me to pull up your domain, I can do that and share. And if not, I can kind of show you how I would do that on another site if that works. John, coming in with the heaters, another great question. Can you post the same video on Humix and YouTube? Yes, you can. So there's no harm in posting them in both places, which is why I'm saying it's so beneficial. There's no crossover. You can post it on Google Videos, which is now a really massive upcoming area for publishers to kind of gain traffic. It's actually huge. But Humix is seeing like over 1 billion impressions a month, which is more than what Snapchat sees. So that gives you another idea of how massive and major of an opportunity this is in Humix. So Google videos, you can do YouTube, you can do Humix, and you can post them on your own pages. So you're kind of throwing your videos down in 4 different places. And maybe even more, depending on if you want to share your videos across other users. But yes, to answer your question, John, yes, you can. So do you guys thinking about cPanel and Ezoic WordPress hosting, because this will help the publishers? So I mean, yes, totally, but which is why we give you the option for SFTP, so you can still access all your site files, because this of course is insanely important. So we didn't want to keep this away from you guys, but because WordPress hosting is a free service and a rather new one, we're still working through a lot of things to improve it, and I'm sure this is something that we'll definitely be touching up on in the future. So I'm not able to place Ezoic ad code in the WordPress custom HTML. Suggest me, please. So one of the major things that I would ask is, what CMS are you using? Are you using WordPress? Because if you're using WordPress, you can use like the add-in searcher plugin, which will then allow you to add that code much easier without doing it absolutely manual. But if you want to add specific placeholders to your pages, I would actually suggest using the Chrome extension and not doing it, manually through the code, because, while that can be very beneficial and you can hard code those placeholders to your pages, adding them to the Chrome extension is just a lot easier. And not only that, it gives you a pretty good visual of how it will look on the page. So, it'll give you the location where it'll show before an ad's actually served. So it gives you a good visual representation of what's going to be. Not only that, you can see what element you're actually tagging that placeholder to. The reason why I say this is because the way our placeholders work, let's say I have an article and I'm attaching a placeholder to a P tag. Excuse me, sorry about that. Let's say I'm adding a placeholder to a P element on one of my articles. If that P element is also going to exist on another article, on another page, then that placeholder is going to be carried over from this page to this one. So now I have that same placeholder showing on 2 different pages with only adding it to one. So the idea behind this is, let's say all of your articles are built out using a similar format or similar elements. If I were to add that placeholder to a P element using the Chrome extension on this page, if that element is found on every other page, then that placeholder is going to be added to the same location on all pages. So that way you don't have to go through every single page and add a placeholder individually, because that's just exhausting. So that's going to actually be my suggestion, is to actually use the Chrome extension opposed to adding it through custom HTML. You are right. I meant Humix. Question was, I could integrate YouTube videos over my website as well as Humix over my website. I understand the difference. Thanks. I could integrate YouTube videos over my. I'm confused what you mean over my website, or if I already answered it. I think I'm still a little bit confused on the question here, but to kind of, I'm a little bit confused in your question, but I do want to show you something that if you are using YouTube videos on your pages already, this is a really important feature to actually know where it is. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let's go out of Ezoic Ads. We're going to go into Humix. Humix is currently turned off for this publisher, so I should probably find another one, huh? Okay, well, let me pull up another one really quick. But once you're in, when you're in Humix, you can find content on the sidebar. And under content, you'll see basically replace all of your YouTube videos currently on your pages with Humix. So it'll generate the videos for you through Humix and replace them. I think that was going to be your question. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I can go through that again. Yeah, John, I'll be more than happy to do that. Mike, you're a legend. I'm not a preacher from Ireland, but I am a cast iron cook from Arkansas. Sounds like a bomb cook. I would love some food from Arkansas. I bet you guys have some amazing barbecue and some amazing grilling. Okay, so Anita, I'm actually gonna share your domain, this one here, Get Up Learn, so I can show you both the general setup for John, and I also want to show you a potential placeholder setup. So I'll use that opportunity right now. I just want to see if there's anything. Oh, John, you're from the DC area as well. Yeah, I grew up in Montgomery County, so I'm actually Maryland, but I was only 3 miles outside Washington DC. So yeah, I do have a LinkedIn. My last name is Stever. That's okay. I'll give you guys my email in case you guys ever want to ask me any questions with these live streams. But my last name will be spelled like how it is there. So first name Charlie, last name Stever. But I'm happy you're learning a lot, and I do want to show you a lot more because there's so much to do. But before I open up Anita's website and show you both the placeholder and lead setup, I want to see what other questions they asked. So does Ezoic ever provide fast and responsive website themes for beginners? Because as a beginner, we struggle with the speed because major of the people don't know any coding. Anita, yes, I do have a great suggestion for you, and it's actually something that I've been learning a lot about more recently with Leap. Giving full optimized theme will help Ezoic AI as well. Ezoic Leap has more control and site speed. This is my personal problem. So I actually would 100% agree with you here. But before I go into this, a little bit of a rant, I wanted to actually give you some insight on the placeholder setup from there. So let me pull up your dashboard really quick. But I appreciate you letting me share this, your domain with you. So custom kit, since this is a pretty quick question you asked down at the bottom, a really good one. Is there a way to see the highest EP&V filtered by ad placement using Ezoic Analytics? So yes, we do have this. We do have this report available for you. It is actually going to fall under yield reporting, but yield reporting is actually only available through Ezoic Pro. So custom kit, what I can do for you is if you want to send me an email and ask for this report, my email again is just below your comment here. I can show you what the report looks like. I can take a screenshot of the current report to show you which placeholder is working, and then you can say, hey, this is a good idea of what the other reports could look like, and then you can kind of consider Ezoic Pro from there if you want that. But I can definitely do that. Oh, Mr. Cast Iron, Mike, I missed a statement above about your cache hit rate. I'm not seeing anything about cache hit rate from you, Mike. I only see hi, and then Arkansas comment, and then that. So if you added your domain, Google might have removed it. But again, before I go on too much of a tangent, let's jump back here. Let's go to Anita's website and show you guys some of that stuff. Sometimes I get really excited and I just want to go off a rant, and then I'm like, wait, I didn't even do what I was supposed to do 4 minutes ago. So excuse me for that. Okay, I'm going to pull up their domain, pull up their dashboard. Awesome. Cool. So the first question they wanted me to go through was, okay, the ad setup. Okay, so let's do that first. Sorry, it was just a little bit of a brain fart. Oops, not that one, this one. Cool. All right, so when we're talking about a really good ad setup, oops, this didn't load. That's the first thing I always like to do is to actually just go through your dashboard, which clearly loves to work right now. I don't know why I can't get this to load, but that's okay. Let's improvise and overcome. Okay, so looks like, so this is going to be the opening page of what they have. of Anita's page. This is awesome. It looks like they have some, really diverse content. They have a bunch of content here. They have links to their social media. This is awesome. And they also have a link to their blog section. This is cool. What I'm trying to point out here is that this is a very common practice to maybe only have like one floating sidebar video as they did here on the home page, because your engagement's not going to be really crazy driven through here. I do have their dashboard now, so I just want to show you guys that. Oops. So the first thing I always do before I do an ad setup is I'll actually just go through here to see, kind of, what their current setup is like. So it looks like they've added a bunch of placeholders using the Chrome extension. Excuse me. This looks beautiful. They've custom named them, after content mobile, before content mobile. So even upon first glance, Anita, it looks like you've really done a great job of actually going through and dialing in your placeholders manually. We have ad tester turn on, vignettes are turned on, you have AI placeholders and enhanced placeholders turn on. That's beautiful. Anchor ads are on with always compete off, which is actually pretty good. Sticky sidebar ads, floating video that we just saw on the homepage, and beta is off. That's okay. And so in general, this looks really good already. Of course, we actually haven't gotten into it yet, but that's kind of the first thing I like to go through, because I like to see how do they add placeholders originally, and then go from there. So let's actually find one of their articles. This is an example of a vignette or a interstitial ad, as I was talking about before. Easy to close out. We see an Ezoic sidebar at the top. We have a sidebar mid between some of the content. And then we have a sidebar floating here at the bottom. So this is an awesome setup. This is one, the bottom of the page and the sidebar floating are two of some of the better performing placeholders statistically. But now that we're actually in an article where it really matters, we have one under the H1. We have our sidebar here. We have under the first two paragraphs. And we still have a floating sidebar here at the bottom, which is awesome. Okay, so upon first glance, this is a really long article, which is really great. It'll drive engagement really long. This actually is not an Ezoic ad. I don't know where this one's being served from, or maybe it is. I can check after, but I would suggest probably removing this one, as it kind of breaks up your LI or OL element here. Not the end of the world, but then again, you have an ad serving here. This looks great. Page refresh, SEMrush, a couple after the quotes. You broke up an element again here. That's okay if that's something you wanted to personally set up. There is potential to add one here. Maybe again right here. So John, this will kind of give you a good idea of, especially on some of these longer paragraphs, I'll say, it's okay to throw, one here, but then maybe you could add another one like right here and get away with it, because it won't always be served again. But this is a really great page. This definitely on the lighter side of an ad setup, but a really good one nonetheless. So what I would do for you is I would basically activate the Chrome extension, excuse me. I'll go over to create. So I forget the name of the person who asked this earlier, but this is how I would actually suggest creating placeholders manually. So I'll go to create, select location, and this is when you'll actually see all of the advertisements go from advertisements to colored boxes. And these colored boxes are essentially going to be our placeholders. So from there, you can see the different sizes of the ads showing. I don't know why I cannot get this to open. Sometimes if you view it first, wait for the whole page to load. Cool. Let's go back to create. Cool. Okay, so now we have our placeholders showing us colored boxes. And then if I wanted to add another placeholder, so first let's find a good location for this. So again, this looks really good. Looks like you have WordPress placeholders also enabled. So I'm confused. So when we created the WordPress placeholder, I can't speak, WordPress plugin placeholders, we have them automatically bypass OL and LI elements. So if this is an OL element, which I'm assuming it's not, the WordPress plugin would automatically bypass this. But I'm assuming these aren't an OL element. Oh, I can't select it because I'm in edit mode. So yeah, those should automatically be removed. But again, I can show you how to do that. So let's just say, for instance, before I add another one, let's say you wanted to remove this. What I could actually do is I could just click on the title and I could say, remove from this page or don't show in this directory. If I said don't show in this directory, it will basically say every URL that follows this will not show this placeholder. Of course, I can delete the entire placeholder, but that's not a good practice. Or I can just say don't show on this page again. But let's scroll down and let's find a spot to add a placeholder. Okay, cool. But you guys can see also how the AI placeholders kind of work. So the page is saying, look, you have some empty real estate right here, and we believe a placeholder could be added. So that's why the AI is saying, hey, let's add one here as well. Okay, let's say we can add one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this P element. And I'm going to press this button because this will drop the placeholder below the element. So you'll see it go boom just below because I don't want to break up this H3 or whatever this is in this P element. I can do insert here. And then from there, I can then just select what placeholder ID I want to add this to. So let's just call it, I know they have a button, so I'm just going to set it as in content 40, so I'm not overlapping with any others. Save placeholder, and then I'm done. So it'll give you a pretty good idea of how to add one and maybe look, and this is how you can kind of find locations on your pages where you actually want to add a placeholder. So here it is there, it's loaded in the screen. And usually I'll just go through and say, hey, look, any area where there's kind of empty real estate like this, I'll just go ahead and add another. Insert here. Since this is mid-content and this mid-content does show for mobile and tablet as well, I'm going to leave it on for all of these. I'm going to go down to 41, boom. If you guys did want to edit the sizes, you can see all the different sizes that we will allow to test, but the default configuration is really good. So you can rely on the default configuration for those and not mess around with that too much. And then the rest of the page actually looks really, really good. I will save your domain name down. I'm going to write it down in my notebook right now. So that way, when I do have more time later, I can actually go through some of your top landing pages and actually just give it a deeper look. But in terms of not wasting everyone's time and answering other people's questions, I want to go over some other things. Okay, so let's circle back to John's question. Let me just make sure I'm not missing any important comments. Oh, this is a list, so it should be automatically excluded. Okay. Okay, cool. So let me then show you, John, and everyone else, how it basically analyze and utilize Leap. So the first thing I would look at is cache hit rate. The reason why I would look at cache hit rate is because LCP scores and cache hit rate actually do have a correlation. So if you're seeing really poor LCP scores and you're also seeing a failing or a really low cache hit rate, the first thing I would suggest to do is to go through your cache settings and optimize those. What that will actually look like is if you go to Leap, go to caching here on the sidebar. From here, we can see the cache settings. So this is actually a great setup. The only thing I would suggest is turning enable caching for cookies to on. I won't do that since they haven't given me their consent to do that. But I would simply just hit edit, turn this to on, and then save. But again, that's for Anita. They didn't give me permission to actually change anything, so I'll leave as is for now. To go back, let's go to optimize. So now that we're in optimize, we can see all the features that are currently enabled and not enabled. So some of the things that could probably help, especially with LCP, is custom CSS and preload fonts. A couple other things, you can load jQuery from our CDN. Since you are cloud integrated, this will be a really good feature here. And and then of course set explicit width and height. That way we can't, go over those things, and creating a really large image or element will then hurt LCP a good bit. So in terms of settings, this is really good, but I wanted to show you exactly how you could kind of break down the CLS and stuff like that. So what I can do is I can actually just click on CLS, but since LCP is hurting more, I wanted to click on this. Once you click on that, you can kind of see how your scores go over time. So Leap does actually only analyze scores from real users. So what I mean by this, like if you were using page speed test or GT metrics tests in the past, that will basically take a lab type scan of your page only above the fold. So again, it's going to be a not real visit. It's only going to be above the fold, and it's not going to analyze your entire page like a real user actually would. So this will say, you did make some changes here, and it did help a little bit. That could be like more cached pages being served. But when we actually scroll down, we can see all the pages that are having the biggest hindrance to LCP. What I can do from here is I can do test in Ezoic Lab. So this is going to be the slowest page. Let's test it in the Ezoic Lab. From here, I can see all the things that are hindering LCP, whether it's the largest element or the image. It'll tell me the things that I should be improving. But I actually already have a pretty good indication on what is actually hindering site speed here. And I can show you once this loads. It does normally take a couple minutes. Let me just see if there's any other questions I can answer for now. But yeah, Mr. Hobbies, I agree with you, of course, as well. The Chrome extension is a really nice way to just go ahead and add more. Okay, so nothing. So I do want to go over, let's go over the Leap. It looks like it's loaded. Cool. Okay, so now that we've actually, we can see that our lab type scan of this page is still showing 3.2 seconds. It's going to say, hey, your H1 here is actually the largest element getting flagged. And it's going to say, hey, look, these are some of the things that we would suggest enabling through Leap alone that are going to help with your LCP. So these two will be huge. So I would go ahead, enable both of these. If you also want to improve LCP, you can disable ads above the fold, but again, that will take an impact on revenue. But the thing that I really, really wanted to touch up on that isn't even specific to LCP or CLS, but is actually important for all of you guys. When I'm in overview, if you guys scroll below the scores here to recommendations, this is where Leap is going to flag everything that is hindering site speed in terms of technology and say, hey, these things are really hurting your site speed scores, and I would suggest either removing or replacing them. So let's say GP Premium is something that you actually don't need, and you don't really need to use anymore. You could just delete it and say, all right, I don't need that because this is hindering site speed a lot. It's saying 24% of domains using this technology perform significantly worse than the average site. So it is taking data from both your scan and other pages, or excuse me, and other domains to say, hey, look, this is not a technology that we would support in terms of speed. But you might be sitting there and saying, hey, look, GP Premium is one of my favorite plugins. I don't want to remove it, even though it does hinder site speed. What you can actually do is you can click on View Alternatives, and it'll tell you plugins that do the same functions and their price, but that actually don't hurt site speed as much. So saying, look, 70% of domains using this technology perform significantly better than the average site. So you're now getting the technology that you were using before, but through a faster plugin. So that way your speed will improve drastically. So that was a bit kind of a vague going over that, but I wanted to give you guys a good idea of how Leap actually works and how you can go in right after this and kind of make improvements. So that way you are moving in the faster direction and not moving backwards. Okay, so this is the question I wanted to answer next. Does Ezoic ever provide fast and responsive website themes for beginners? Because as a beginner, we struggle with site speed because of major people don't know any coding. So the beautiful thing is you actually don't need to know any coding in order to have a really good site and really fast site and making money from a site, because there are a lot of features that are built out through Ezoic that will basically help you manage everything head to toe in regards of your site. So what I would suggest you do is you actually download one of the simpler and most basic themes from WordPress. What I personally use is I use 2021. That's a really good one. Some of the other ones that our publishers have used in the past, I always say avocado, but it's Acobado. I always forget the name of it. I just call it the avocado theme. I think you guys all know the theme I'm talking about. If not, it is a WordPress theme. But there is data to show that the basic WordPress themes are faster and higher earning. The reason they're higher earning is because they're less complex, so it's a lot easier for the user to actually get to the content and read the content. The reason it's faster is because there's actually less to load on a simpler theme than a larger one. That's kind of the main theme and thing here with site speed. But let me find some of the other ones that are. So 2021, as I just suggested, is a really good one. Let's see. What else is showing in this one? Well, I'm going to let you guys just go through this whole article yourself. But I thought it gave me a list of other themes that were really great. But this will actually go into depth to actually show you why, along with the data. Yeah, another bonus is that 82% of domains using this technology perform significantly better than the average site. That is a statistically significant statement. So I would go through and read that one right there because it does go over everything that I tried to touch on in depth, but didn't really do a great job of. But yeah, the main idea here is that having a simpler theme is better for a handful of reasons, both engagement, both site speed, and in turn, that will be revenue. Okay, let me go through some of these questions because I feel like I did a lot of jibber jabbering, but I didn't answer any questions. Mike, I can pull up your site if you want me to go over your cache hit rate. Just let me know what exactly you want me to look into. Can you help with the duplicate content warnings I get regarding Humix and its conical? Yeah, so I don't have your domain pulled up, and I haven't seen this error actually before in the past. But let me see if I can find your domain in our admin. No, I can't find your domain. So I can actually, I'll make a note to actually look up what this error could be for you, Mr. Hobbies. But what I'm going to ask you to do so we don't lose contact with you or anything is I'm going to ask you to ask this question in the community, which is where we do handle all of our support. Sometimes we give you guys general tips and tricks. But yeah, this link here is basically where you can go through. Oh, niche site life. So yeah, here I use Astra, Generate Press, and Popcorn. And Daniel says, yep, Popcorn is a good theme as well. So there are some other ones. I appreciate you guys both chiming in and offering your insight because you guys are definitely very valid and credible source. Excuse me, very valid and credible sources. So I appreciate that. So yeah. If you could do me a favor, Mr. Hobbies, can you go into the community and just ask that question for you so that way I can pull up an answer? Because honestly, I haven't seen this before. I haven't seen a duplicate warning, but I will get an answer for you today. Charlie, if we don't use Ezoic CDN or Leap, then it could impact the earnings. So if you don't use Leap, that's okay. I would say make sure you're using something like WP Rocket that is fast and you guys know how to use. So that way you are getting covered in terms of site speed. But since we are in the Access Now program, you will have to be cloud integrated, with our platform. So what that means is you will have to use our CDN because you're going to be cloud integrated. But in terms of site speed, you do not have to use Leap or our cloud caching. I would highly suggest it just because you can control all of your features in one location, and there's so much data to point that they are very useful features when used correctly. So will it impact the earnings? Yes and no, because no, it won't. If you are using something else that and your site speed is still scoring really well and all your users are getting to your pages really quickly, then it won't impact earnings. But let's say you just turn it off and you don't have anything else, helping with site speed, then yes, it will hurt the earnings because your user experience will drop due to the fact that your users are having a harder time getting to your pages because they're loading slower. Your time to interact will be slower, so then they might bounce a lot quicker. So then in that form, it will actually hurt earnings. So it is important to have a fast site, as you guys all know the importance of that. But that's kind of going to be my answer to that question. Also, really cool icon you have down here. That's awesome. The this character down at the bottom with the thinking face. That's really cool. I like that a lot. John asks, when I change cache settings, how will it take Ezoic to reevaluate the hit rate as you showed? Is it a 24-hour update on the score or a week? Hope that question makes sense. So that does make sense, John, and it actually will report every 24 hours, maybe even before that. But essentially what you can do, John, is you can actually analyze this day by day, and I want to show you how you can do that. But yeah, it does. To answer your question, Trip, it will do it day by day. So if you make changes today, the cache hit rates and misses from tomorrow will be reflected with the changes you made today. My pub dash is maybe just my computer's slow today. I was using it kind of late last night. Maybe it's still warm. I don't know. Feels okay. It's a little warm, but here we go. I do, this is kind of off topic, but I do want to say that these live streams, hopefully they're beneficial for you all. But honestly, a lot of the insight you guys give to each other also helps me a lot because, I am on the earlier side of my publishing career. But you guys have offered so much good insight. I've picked up basically a content creation schedule from you guys. You guys have told me good themes to use. I switched my theme to one of your guys' suggested themes and it worked really well. So I just wanted to say thank you guys for also sharing your insight because it does help me as well. I want to show you guys how you can use Ezoic and make sure you're optimized from my end, but also thank you for sharing your insights and also helping me. So it is a two-way street, and I do appreciate that a lot. Okay, cool. So John, I want to just show you really quickly how you can actually find your cache settings and hit percentage and everything from there. I'm going to give you guys the infinite loop. Please excuse me for a second. You're going to be in the matrix now. Okay, so we're actually going to find this under, so this is another test example, but you can go under the analytics tab of your dashboard right here. This is going to open up a BDA, which stands for Big Data Analytics. One of the I will say one of the more underutilized technologies at Ezoic. One of the most in-depth, really analytical tools we have that doesn't get used a ton, unfortunately. And of course, it does for our VIP sites and a lot of our bigger sites because, as you guys know, data is so important in the publishing world. But I would say it's kind of underutilized for a majority of us. Once we are here, we're going to find site speed. Under site speed, we'll find caching, and then we can click here on Ezoic caching. So again, it's going to be site speed, caching, Ezoic caching. And then we'll basically have a breakdown day by day. So this is going to answer your question, John. Day by day, we'll get a breakdown of cache hits, cash misses, and then just cash off. So we are having cash off finally reset as of 2 days ago, which is great. But you'll see, cash hits really great, 519, and misses 219. And then, so this will basically be your day-by-day breakdown to answer your question, John. And then if you wanted to go into your cash misses, you could basically just say, hey, what's going on here? Why are we missing cash? We can just click on that. And then it'll actually give you the pages where cash is being missed, along with the reason to why they're actually being missed. Most of the time, it's going to be subsequent calls will be cached, which basically means, the previous visitor was not getting a cache page, but since they made that request, the next user will, which can just vary between, where users will come from. So this can be a little confusing because it's saying over the last 7 days, this page has been requested 5 times and it hasn't been hit. That means either an entire day has passed, or it's just going to mean that the next call to the page maybe was coming from a different server, which is why it wasn't actually hit as a cache hit. Registered as a cache hit. But hopefully that answered your question, John, without going on too much of an event, because I'm pretty good at going on event, as you guys know. Umar, hi Charlie. I joined you guys late. No worries. We still got plenty of time left. We'll probably go to at least 12. So Umar, feel free to just answer a couple questions out there, or throw a couple questions out there, and I'll be happy to answer those. But hopefully that answers your question, John. Okay, so this is a really good question. So if you have not set up mediation yet, I would highly, highly suggest doing this. What this basically does is allow more header bidders, more networks to basically bid on your inventory. So if you are using Ezoic and you were previously using AdSense, what you can basically do is add AdSense partners to the equation of header bidding. So that way you have a larger market of people, requesting for your inventory, which means you're going to be earning more you're basically, sorry, that was a lot of word vomit. I couldn't even get my words out. This is going to guarantee that you're earning as much as possible for each ad location on your page. So if AdSense decides to pay out more for a certain location on your page, then you will get that highest bid for that location. So this will basically guarantee that you're earning more than you were with AdSense. So this is one of the really, really important features to set up. If you guys want me to show you basically where this exists in the dashboard and how to set it up, I'll be more than happy to do that. So if you have not enabled mediation, but you were previously using or are still using AdSense, I'm going to give you homework and say set up AdSense mediation today, because it's going to only benefit you as a publisher. That's basically it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's going to benefit you guys tenfold. So I just want to make that message clear. But if you are using other networks to actually answer your question, you'll just want to make sure that you add those networks to the mediation app. So you can, if you're set up showing ads to another place and maybe they do good rates for X, Y, and Z or good RPMs, then set up that network through mediation the same way you set up AdSense mediation. And then the best way to actually leverage this is to turn your Ezoic traffic to 100%. So that way we can actually mediate all of your traffic through your Ezoic versions, and that will ensure that you're earning as much as possible for each ad that you show, which would not be possible if you're not actually sending all of your traffic through Ezoic. It's something that's pretty incredible and something that we like to use. But I just wanted to check out John's cache hit really quick before I do that. Let me just check out to see if you've actually cleared your cache. You have not. Sorry, I'm just quick little. So, Mike, I think the reason why is your maximum cache age is too low. So what you should do is actually increase your max cache age. to 30 days. And doing that, you'll be fine, because currently it's set at only like a day or so or less than. So I would say increase your cache. Let me share my screen really quick. This setting right here, increase. So the maximum amount of time in seconds to allow an object to be cached. This value will limit cache age even if the cache control headers is specifically a longer time. So this is saying that the longest time that'll allow you to cache is 7,200 seconds, which is, I couldn't even tell you how long that is. Oh, hours? No, I can't do math. Anyway, increase this to 30 days, and then your cache hit rate will continue to rise, because this is only allowing your cache to be hit for 7,200 seconds. Okay, let me make sure I didn't miss any other questions. Divi themes. Are Divi themes? Let me check. So I know that Divi themes has, sorry, I dropped my pen. Divi themes has a lot of complex features and page builders built out through it, which is awesome, which will really allow you to be creative. But I want you to just understand the underlying effect of loading more and having a more complex theme, and how that will actually impact site speed. Again, the more simple a page or a builder or a theme, the faster it'll be and the higher earnings you could actually see due to having a faster theme. We don't have a good guide on other mediation partners, but the one that I would obviously suggest tenfold is AdSense Mediation, because they do have some good RPMs. We will always outperform, if you have a really, really good setup and have a mediation enabled. So that's why it's basically like a guarantee that 100% traffic and having a perfect setup with Ezoic, including mediation, will guarantee that you earn more through Ezoic than you would AdSense. One thing I want to touch on that can be a little bit confusing is, let's say you generated $20 through Ezoic for a month, and you generated $6 to $7 through mediation. So those mediation earnings will actually be paid out through AdSense. So if you're getting paid out $20, like, what the heck? I have $28 earned on my Ezoic dashboard. Why aren't I getting $28 in my payment? So basically, you should check your mediation earnings, and if you were paid out 20, and your total earnings were 8, and your mediation earnings were $8, you can basically say, hey, that $8 will then be paid out through AdSense. So there's nothing to worry about there. We're not taking that money, of course. It's just going to be paid out through AdSense and not Ezoic. That's just how it works. Anita, one more question, of course. An incident happened in my site in the past. Somehow my domain is not eligible for Ezoic free WordPress hosting, but I've been using Ezoic hosting since I joined. Does Ezoic WordPress hosting make any backup for the site? Because I lost some of my latest posts. This is real. An incident happened in my site in the past. So Ezoic WordPress hosting, since it's free and there's no storage limits and there's no limitations whatsoever, we actually don't have the bandwidth currently to store backups for everyone's sites on a regular basis. I think you guys can understand the massive, storage that would be required in order to run this. So what I would say for you is to actually have something like Updraft Plus or all-in-one backup, and just back up your site whenever you guys do make changes or maybe upload new articles. I understand this takes a little bit, it takes a little bit more work for you guys to do this, but because our WordPress hosting is currently only free, and we kind of have a massive amount of bandwidth for amount of sites that are on it, it's going to be up to your responsibility to actually create some backups of your site. because we want to avoid instances like this where you do lose an article. That's the last thing I ever want to happen for the site. We can always go back to some older logs. If you really do run into some issues, we can kind of go through a lengthier process to help you out, which we are always willing to do. But please, please, please just generate a backup of your site on a regular basis, especially if you're making changes and updating new articles. Can you share how to set up the other mediating partners in a Ezoic dashboard? I feel other networks is not really talked about. So I don't really know what other network you would like to actually include, but let me see if Mike has mediation set up so I can show you at least where it would exist. Okay. I'm not sure which network you would like to share or include, but it would exist right here in the dashboard. So you can see that Google AdSense has been added. Header bidding mediation. Look, you can just simply go ahead and say add network, search for the network. Let's say it was one of these. You just want to add that network, and then it'll be a mediating partner, and you want to make sure that your ads.txt is set up. I'm not sure how to answer your question. I don't know which network. There's no other networks that I would suggest off the top of my head. But hopefully that answered your question a little bit. MD, so yes, I'll be happy to take a look at your site. It has no violations, has good traffic, he says. So if you want to go ahead into the community and post it, post that in the community there. I'll be more than happy to take a second look, and we'll say, hey, maybe it was denied in the past, but the traffic has gone a lot better. Or maybe it was denied in the past for content, but the content's gone a lot better. There's no benefit for either of us for denying your site. So if we are denying your site for monetization, that means there are policy violations, that were found. Because again, we don't want to turn down absolutely any site that does us no good, that does you no good. It's a lose-lose. So when we do turn off your site, it's not because we don't want to work with you. It's just because we can't. We do have to abide by certain regulations and things that Google sets forward in order for us to maintain a healthy relationship with them, which I'm sure you guys understand. But yeah, I'll be happy to look into that. You should sign up for these other networks as well. We won't automatically add those networks, I don't think. So I would go through and make sure that you add those as well, and you set those up through them. If you're still seeing ads from a blocked if you're still getting ads served from a blocked advertisement, what you should do is you should go and actually find the domain name of the advertisement being served. So you'll click on the ad, find the URL of the domain name, go into the exclusion. Let me see where this lives now. I'm going to share my screen and search for you. Since we did just update this, I did go through most of the changes in the dashboard yesterday, but so let's go back to the home page. So if we're on the home page, we're going to go to Ezoic Ads, Ad Restrictions. You can set up, restrict max ads per page. I would not do this if you don't know exactly what you're setting up, because you can hurt revenue quite a bit. You can limit ad categories here. You can disable ads by a single page. You can turn on some ad restrictions. But this is where you'll actually find the advertisement blocker. So if I enable this advertisement blocker, I'm just going to enable it really quick. We can go down and just input any URL that is actually happening. So if you click on the ad, find the company or the URL that's serving the advertisement, go ahead, add it there, save it, and then go from there. But I will say, if this is an advertisement that you just don't really like, it's not something that you don't want to be served, I would highly suggest not removing any of those categories or advertisements, because if you guys want to think about it, these are the type of companies that are willing to pay for the actual inventory on your pages. So if this is being beneficial to show to someone else, then that could help include and CTR rate, and then your revenue will go up a ton. So restricting advertisements doesn't really work too well if it's not specifically something that's essential. So I'm opening up my account with AdSense. Do I need to set up the side for showing ads in AdSense? No, you do not. That will actually hurt your revenue a lot if you do end up adding more AdSense ads alongside Ezoic ones, because it'll basically break how our AI works, as it won't know there's any other advertisements on the page. So what you should do, UA, is actually go enable or set up AdSense, complete the setup through AdSense, and then go through and just enable AdSense mediation through the dashboard. So that way, all of your current placeholders will then just be able to be mediated with AdSense. You don't have to do anything else. Hopefully that made some sense. I was kind of typing as I said that, and hopefully it didn't come out as jargon. But I'm going to drop this article in the bottom of the comment section for you right now, so you can see how you can actually set up the mediation app. But to answer your question, no, just set your Ezoic traffic to 100%, enable mediation, and you're good. So mediation normally never pays out more than Ezoic itself. I've never seen that happen. But the way, if mediation does end up making some earnings, that's just saying that AdSense was willing to pay out more for that individual inventory than Ezoic was. So it's just going to, again, it's going to ensure that you're earning as much as possible, and you'll be kind of golden. I'm kind of confused by what Ezoic means when they said the partners have been added if you check the other header bidding networks. I'm not exactly sure what you're asking here, but yeah, I'm a bit confused. I'm confused by what Ezoic means. Yeah, so if you can clarify this question, I'm a bit confused exactly what you're trying to ask here, but if I can give you a good answer to this, I'll be happy to. Anita said, no, my questions are too much to handle. I'll try to answer them as best of my ability. I promise I will. And last, could we expect any SEO tools from Ezoic in the future, like keyword research, site comparison, backlink check, etc.? I know there are a lot of services online, but those are not free. Well, we actually have those as of a couple weeks ago. So if you actually haven't seen before, I'm going to pull up one of the test sites here. Hold on. But we actually already have those. Wait, he's talking about. He's adding a new site. Who's adding a new site? Sorry, I'm confused. Okay, let me go back. So we do have a free SEO tool now. It's called Niche IQ or Niche IQ. And it actually does some of those things that you were just asking them to do. Keyword research, competition, difficulty, etc. Cool. So let me present really quick. So where all our SEO tools will now live is here in Niche IQ. Topics has already been enabled. On-page SEO has already been enabled. Site health is already enabled. So I can simply go to the topic suggestions here. You get a good overview. You get your actual topic suggestions. You can sort by potential, search volume, keyword difficulty, if it's been covered or not. So let's say you wanted something that has maybe middle of the range search volume. That isn't too difficult. maybe we can go to the second page here and say, look, based on what you've written, we suggest maybe weather for Chapel Hill in North Carolina. The high search volume, relatively good potential, a little bit more difficult, but still the search volume is a lot higher. So that's something that's pretty cool. So that's one of them. You can see some of your competition in their overview, some with, correlating matching keywords. You can see that here as well. And then you just get a competitors list of basically overlay of keywords, your rank against them, your overlap ratio, and other things like that. On-page SEO, don't have an experiment to start right now, but basically tag tester is basically going to say, hey, let's say I wrote a car on hottest cars of 2022. What tag tester does, it'll basically create an experiment with a couple of different titles. So it'll say 2022 hottest cars, or hottest cars of 2022, or what's the hottest car of the year. So basically test a couple different titles, and whichever continues to outperform the rest will continue to be served. So that way you are optimizing getting traffic and your SEO efforts. Site health, so you can see broken links, some with errors. It'll actually give you the links as well here. Resources, just more topics and more information on this. But yeah, that's basically kind of what we have for now. Again, this is a much newer product. What that means is we're just in the early side of the development here. Objectionable content says they detected the F word in 2 of the content, but it was never there. So if it was never there, you can actually select, let me show you this. You can actually select the time frame to choose. But this is actually something that every single one of you should check, because even if you're saying, hey, well, I don't write inappropriate words, why would it matter? Well, if you have a comment section, they can actually comment something, which will then create some issues with ads not being served. So if we go to Ezoic Ads, ad restrictions, objectionable content, you want to make sure that if you're saying, hey, I don't have that content on there anymore, make sure you're using the right time frames. So you might be looking at older data potentially. And then if you're saying, hey, look, I have a word being flagged here on this page, but I actually removed it. Our cron will basically run twice a day. So sometimes it could take 12 to 24 hours to reflect in the dashboard. So Care asked, side rail ads are coming. Thoughts? Sounds like big money earners. And then John asked, what are side rail ads? Sidebar ads, question mark. Side rails are ads that stick to the sides of your pages when they're viewed on wider screens, such as desktops. So it's basically kind of acts similar to how an adaptive ad would work. It'll basically analyze the layout of the page. But yeah, I will say, just circle back on the objectionable content. If you are seeing earnings or revenue that are confusing, or if you're seeing stuff in the objectionable content, get it handled ASAP, because you will see earnings and revenue jump up, especially if it's on a really frequently visited page, because you'll see no ads being shown. You remove it, you have ads, earnings, revenue, EPMV skyrocket. Back to the railcar ads. So if we're analyzing a sidebar that says it has a ton of basically real estate, we'll basically be allowed to serve a wider ad. I'm not sure if that's actually being served now, or if that's already what is, because I did notice recently that our sidebar ads did change in format recently. So the way we would interpret us serving that or not is we would always test a couple variations. So we'll say, let's test user engagement, TTI, and all these different things. We'll analyze the full page. And once we have the data that says actually adding this rail ad doesn't hurt user experience, then we can say, all right, let's serve it. Ad set says it's coming on December 13th. Okay, so we probably don't have it yet as well. I actually haven't even seen a rail ad, so I don't know what it looks like. But I know Ezoic wouldn't make the decision to serve it or not if it was going to be a severe negative impact for you or your users. So only test for a subset of your users that'll say, hey, it's beneficial for them. It's not hurting user experience. It's helping your revenue. Let's serve that ad. That's how all of our ad sizes and formats actually currently work. If the data shows that it's hindering user experience, it's not helping revenue, then we'll just cut it loose. Or if we're saying, hey, look, it's really helping revenue, but it's really killing user experience, we also will probably not serve it as well. That's how our AI is technically built. That's the logic of how it works. So that's going to basically be how I would answer this, is that if for a certain subset of your traffic is open to this type of ad format, then that's when we will serve it. We will never compete the same format, size, and location of an ad for every single user unless the data pointed to it. So it's kind of, something to think about. But honestly, Karen, thanks for verbalizing that, because I didn't even know this was a thing. But of course, I'm going to write it down because now I'm really curious. This is just another example of you guys educating me. I would not consider myself a teacher, but one of my old high school teachers used to say, as a teacher, you actually learn more from your students than you do as a teacher, or than the students do from you. While there could be some truth and some false to that, I would say there's definitely truth here. I'm definitely not a teacher. You guys are, usually well off or know a lot more about the publishing world than I do. So it's a learning process, but I do know how to use the Ezoic platform really well along with that. So I think we can work hand in hand well together here. But yeah, I'm all caught up on questions. So hopefully I covered, your guys. Oh wait, Matt actually asked a really good question that I completely skipped over. In terms of dollars per 1,000 users, aka what we call EPMV, what is more important, niche or traffic source? This is a really good question, but it's hard to not say both. Let's say you have one of the surprising, really well-performing niches that we see do well here at Ezoic is actually the gardening niche. But let's say the gardening niche was all like Indian traffic that has a much lower EPMV. You might see an EPMV of maybe $5 to $6, which would be a really good Indian traffic EPMV. So that's kind of why I'm saying, it's really important to actually analyze both. Let's say you're having a gardening site that has really great engagement in long articles and it's US UK traffic, so it's kind of like tier 1 traffic. That's when your EPMV could be $30, $40, $50, $60 even. So it's kind of hard to say which is more important. Oh wait, yeah, you're saying which is more important. It's kind of hard to say which is more important. I think it's just really important to think about both entirely. But if you're gonna force me to answer this, maybe I'll say your source of traffic. That's not me saying that as an expert. I'm not saying that with data to back it up. But logically in my head, you could have a lower performing niche, like something like a shorter snippet of an article. But if it's all US traffic, it still might outperform a high EPMV niche in a low traffic country, if that makes sense. Oh yeah, Daniel, you're actually not dreaming. And I appreciate the kind words, Mike. I really do. I appreciate that. But we actually have an article that has some of this. This data is from 2019, or it's actually from 2020. So someone actually bothered someone from our team to basically say, hey, can we pull some more up to current metrics for this? But I'm going to drop it down here in the comment section, and I'm actually going to share my screen as well, just so you guys can see the graph. So again, yeah, this is again a little bit older, but EPMV from the November 1st to December 15th of 2019. So you can see again, look, garden, huge. Automotive, huge. This is what I currently write in. let's see, travel, sports and hobby, family. I know recipes and cooking is going to be on here somewhere. But yeah, this gives you a good idea of what this will give you a good idea of what a high performing niche will currently be. And we're actually going to try to pull some data for some more reoccurrent relevant data. I'm not removing any comments, Nazir. So that just means that YouTube is probably it's probably saying, let's remove this comment, probably because it includes a URL in it. But I know your question earlier was about, can I re-accept your domain? What you'll actually have to do is just post it in the community, because I can't pull up your analytics and give you a full deep review from my end publicly. But yeah, cuteness, cuteness overloaded. I don't know how I missed that username earlier. That's amazing. But yeah, you can't write a direct URL here because YouTube will remove it. That just about wraps it up for the day. I apologize for not running one of these last week. We were out for some of the holidays, and then yesterday that was just my car kind of tanking out on me. But I want to say thank you guys so much for joining. I hope you guys learned a thing or two. I know I did for sure. I really appreciate you guys all coming. I will be holding more of these in the future. I'm going to be recording more short videos. But I just want to say cheers. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Thursday. We're almost to the weekend. For a lot of you guys are already done because you're farther on the east side of the country or of the world. So you guys are probably almost done with your Thursdays, but I want to say enjoy it. Have a great Friday, and have a safe weekend. Make sure you guys get outside if you can. Give your mind a rest. Write some articles. Stay consistent. Consistency will basically be your best ingredient to success here. But yeah, I'm happy to share some of my time with you guys. You guys are all the best. Love you guys all. I'm always here for you. I'll be in the community for the rest of the day, basically helping out in there. I'll be going through some more placeholder setups. But I want to say, again, for the millionth time, thank you. Wish you guys all the best and have a great weekend. And I'll see you guys next week. I'll be doing another on Tuesday, Thursday next week. So cheers.